looked at a lot of wearable devices and smartwatches, and they have all had their drawbacks, such as why would anyone want this? But now there's Android Wear, and this is finally the thing that's going to make smartwatches useful and easy to use, right? Well, maybe. Google's operating system for wearables debuts on the LG G Watch and the Samsung Gear Live, and it's like having a light version of your Android phone plus Google Now on your wrist. Now, both watches are basically identical in terms of how Android Wear works on them, so let's check it out on the LG. Here's what I like about Android Wear. I have always been a fan of Google Now. I love the sports scores and the commute information and the weather, and I like how on the watch, it just shows up without buzzing all the time. It's just there in little cards that I can swipe through or flick away, and it's a pretty good interface and enough information that I don't have to look at my phone all the time. I also like how I get notifications about incoming emails and texts and calls. I really like how I can compose text messages and emails right on the watch using my voice. Okay, Google, text Rebecca Ferguson. Rebecca Ferguson. Rebecca Ferguson. Email Zainab Barakat. Not true. Unfortunately, sometimes the voice commands are more trouble than they're worth. Start Tinder. I can also open apps, set reminders, and look at the calendar just with voice commands. If you're the kind of person who's willing to talk to your watch, those are really handy features. Now here's what I don't like. The watch, for one thing. The LG G Watch has no buttons, lasts about a day in terms of battery life, and looks like I strapped a big brick to my wrist with a giant rubber band. But that is not Android's fault. Beyond that, my big complaint is the apps. They seem to have kind of an identity crisis. So for example, there's an app called Eat24, which lets you order food for delivery. I use that app and I like it. But on the watch, the only thing I can do is order the exact same thing I got last time I used it. And it forces me to use apps that I don't normally use because there aren't very many available yet. So there's no Uber app. If I want to call a car from my watch, which I obviously do, I have to use Lyft instead. I know that it takes time to rewrite these apps to work with the watch, but get on it, developers. Still, I see a lot of potential in Android Wear, mainly because Google has such a big ecosystem. I mean, this watch should be able to talk to the Nest thermostat soon since Google owns them. And what if I could call up a Netflix show and then send it to my Chromecast straight from my wrist? Android TV and Android Auto are supposedly coming soon. So if this thing could talk to my thermostat, my home theater, my car, and let me cruise for dates on Tinder, now we're cooking with gas. Of course, that is all in the future, and this is the half-baked now, so I will just have to be patient.